Hey guys, it's Go here from Eamon14, and I'm finally back to doing guide videos. I missed it a lot. I just wanted to cover the sneak peek content that I had available so I could help you guys figure out what's going on in the game and kind of how to plan for things the best way that we can, So today's video is called the Combat Triangle. Now, what is the Combat Triangle? And it is game mechanics that are used to create PvP balance in the form of class counters. So it works in a way that Mage counters the Warrior, Warrior counters the Archer, and Archer counters the Mage. Now, you've probably already experienced this at this point in the game, right? And maybe you're feeling like, man, I can't be a Mage if I'm a Warrior, or I can't be an Archer if I'm a Mage. And that's not necessarily true. I'm going to explain and elaborate on my ideas on the Combat Triangle, on the game design and other facets of the game that you can use to ultimately break the Combat Triangle. So your key ideas, first of all, is that combo counters Mage, right? And that's because combo provides sustained damage. So sustained damage is your problem in the Mage versus Archer matchup. Counter counters the Archer because Warrior is reflecting the damage on the Archer, which is a low defense class. And then burst damage is countering your Warrior because burst damage counters shields and sustain. So that's the general design, right, of the Combat Triangle and the things that you must understand about it in order to really see what's going on in your fights, where you're winning, where you're losing, and hopefully to lead you to using the rest of the information in this video to trying to win fights that really the Combat Triangle does not think that you should win, right? It's kind of an enforced system numerically, and it's going to be difficult to work around, but I think that I can share quite a few ways for you to experiment and do that today. So how to play around being countered? Well, as a Warrior, your counter is burst. So you're going to want to up your defensives when you're going against a Mage in particular, right? You want to increase your crit res, you want to increase your defense and your HP. You want to use a sustained skill, at least one, and you want to use a sustained pal, which I will get to in a moment. For your Archer, your counter is reflect. So you're going to also want some defensive stats because you're kind of killing yourself, right? And so some HP won't hurt you. Some defense probably won't hurt you. It's important for you to try it out. Every build is designed a different way. So you'll have to take these ideas and you'll have to see where you can fit it in what you have going on your screen. You want to include with those defensive stats on the Archer a shield and sustain skill and what I'm going to call a displacement skill. And what I'm going to mean by that is a skill that allows you to kind of redirect damage in some way or another to another target. Therefore, why I chose to call them a displacement skill. And that the key and pretty much primary displacement skill that you will want to use is the clone strike. Then finally, with the Mage, your counter is sustained damage. So you want to get some HP so that you can survive a little bit longer to be able to use more of your skills. You want to couple that with at least one sustained skill and, some kind of sustained pal. One or the other, like I said, trade it around. But I would suggest having a sustained skill, like the shield skill, with a sustained pal, like the tortoise pal, that's double shielding. It's going to work very, very well for you to be able to pull off more of your skills when they come off cooldown. Then the most important thing, I think, for Mage to counter sustained damage, and therefore the Archer, is to use a utility skill, which the Definition of utility skill here that I'm using is a skill that provides a debuff on the enemy. Its primary source of use is not in its damage. Its primary source of use is not in what it does for you. It's what it does against your enemy. And so those two that I think are the most important is Take It Slow and Easy Breezy. I think they're really overlooked skills. I've been using them for a while to win fights that maybe I shouldn't be winning, right? I used them in my Sleeper 101 video, and I did compare Worldly Snare against Easy Breezy in a separate video where Easy Breezy actually was more functional than a pink skill in the game. So they definitely have some viability. I would not sleep on that whatsoever. Your must-haves to break the combat triangle. That would be your Tortoise Pal. Every class should be using it right now. It's just going to generally help you in these fights where you are being countered. And then you have the Blitz Assault skill, which no matter what class you are, no matter what build you are, you want to use this skill. It's completely broken. It allows you to make fights that are impossible very easy. And the best example I have of that is the Warrior against Mage matchup, where when the fight starts, the Mage will use all of his cooldowns. Well, when all of those skills are used, you are going to be completely invulnerable, right? I will pull the tooltip up for you here. And so you have 3 seconds of damage immunity. Well, that's more than enough time for you to just completely negate everything that mage just did. It's just pretty well broken. If you are in a fight, regardless of being countered or not, and you don't have Blitz Assault and the enemy does, you're in trouble. So I would consider this an absolute requirement, whether you are in a combat triangle situation, so to speak, or not. And then, of course, there's Clone Strike. You know, a lot of people may be missing that the clone that you summon with Clone Strike actually provides your counter and your combos. So not only is it redirecting a certain percentage of damage for you in a fight, it is also doing more damage, right? It is going to proc your combo. It is going to proc your counter. The big counter to Clone Strike in general is AoE damage, and therefore it doesn't really go so good if your enemy has AoE skills and does enough damage with their skills. And of course, I'm mostly talking about the Mage. The Mage is going to one-shot your clone every time. But in most other situations in the game, it's very rare, let's just say, that you will want to drop Clone Strike off of your skill build. And then for relics that are absolutely required for PvP is the Thundercaller Kite, the Stone Book or the Flame Book, the Storm or Spirit Necklace, and the Cage Statue. So you have the Storm Necklace here, the Spirit Necklace here, the Cage Statue here, Thundercaller Kite here, and I'm using the Stone Book, but you also have the Flame Book as well. I like the Stone Book on the Warrior. I'm not going to touch on that too much and take up too much time, but I think the Stone Book is a little bit more useful, especially if you're trying to break the combat triangle, right? Because it's going to be very hard for you to retain a useful attack bonus from this Flame Book, where this is just inherent damage res across the board. So your skill counters, I already mentioned that Clone Strike is countered by AoE damage. Your Take It Slow and your Easy Breezy are going to get countered by sustain damage, sustain in general, and invincibility, like your Blitz Assault here. And the reason why that kind of functions is because, you can negate the the functions of these two skills here with sustain or invincibility. So if somebody hits you with take it slow and you have blitz assault, well, you have 3 seconds here. I mean, they're only getting 2 seconds out of that, right? So it's definitely a direct counter. I mean, it's basically impacting it by over half of the usefulness. For shield, you are going to get countered by burst damage. And the same thing with Nature's Renewal, especially if it's a mage or really anybody using the Blade Pierce, because Nature's Renewal does 30% healing, right? And this is going to take away 7.5% of HP per second. So while you are healing with your Nature's Renewal, you are, you're losing the healing as it's healing you, right? And so it's a direct counter. It works extremely well against Nature's Renewal, this Blade Pierce spell. And finally, Blitz, there's really no counter. It's broken. If you have it, use it. If you don't, pray when you fight somebody that has it and you don't, you just better hope that 3 seconds didn't matter, because it's really broken. It probably needs a nerf. I don't think it should be a complete damage immunity, but that's just my opinion, and I'm not going to dig into that right now. So my overall future thoughts for the combat triangle, what may change the information in this video, what might make me revisit an explanation on the combat triangle, is the Windborn Arrow, the Crimson Moonfall, and the 100 Slashes. I think that those skills being released, this one here, and this one here, these skills being released, and I touched on where they'll come from in another video, the Cross Server Showdown, if you want to check that out. They will definitely likely change some of my thoughts on this, which is why I might come back and revisit this. There is also Awakenings, and the Awakenings will provide classes with a different basic skill. So you have this here for the Warmonger that I am now. I'll use this as an example quickly. So you have the Cocklebur Dance, which is pretty simple, right? It's the same thing it's always been, but when you evolve with your Awakening, you will get the Shattering Axe that's giving you more duration on your increased counter damage and also giving you a launch effect. And so Awakenings will definitely change how classes operate together on the combat triangle. It's just difficult to speak on that when nobody has unlocked any Awakenings yet. There's not enough crystals. And the last thing I kind of want to touch on is the Dragonic Resonance skill. I get a lot of questions about this. I think people think that I've just been talking bad about it. It's not that it's bad. It's that it doesn't have a place in the current meta, in the current combat triangle that we're dealing with. We don't have to worry about evolves, and we don't have to worry about a lot of damage res. Where I think Dragonic Resonance will shine is in the Mage versus Warrior matchup. So it will be primarily the Mage versus the Martial Sage matchup. And the reason why I think that is because if you read the tooltip here, you get an additional 1% extra damage for every 10% damage res. And if we go to the Martial real quick, you have, Sword Warrior in general really, is you have an increase in damage res by 2% for every 10% HP loss. So the more that the Martial Sage will decrease in HP in the fight, the more that the Dragonic Resonance will function as an execute to kind of prevent some of their sustain. You have a shield here that they'll continuously be getting throughout the fight. So the lower you get them, the more that the Dragonic Resonance is going to scale, but only on a basis of damage res, which is why I'm not emphasizing it too much right now. We don't have, the Sword Warriors are not particularly overly strong until they get their basic ability from their evolve, where they will get a 15% healing for 5 seconds, and that will be proccing quite often. So you definitely will want something that can execute them quickly before they can shield again, before they can heal again. And you can punish them for having the 5th passive with Dragonic Resonance. So I do think that there will be some value with that skill in the future. The last few things I'd like to mention before I go, guys, is that I will leave a Discord link in the description so that you can reach me there. If it's hard to reach me at the moment, maybe I've already answered your question. Maybe somebody there can help you. It's a really nice community. We're not playing around over there with disrespectful people or anything. You'll be flat out removed. Yeah, it's just a really nice way to get a hold of me or my ideas, or, you know, maybe even make friends elsewhere in the community that we're building here on the channel. I will also include class links from Q&A analysis from 3 really great players that I know, and they will provide for you some guide stones, so to speak, to help you navigate the information in this video, and also to ultimately just know your class a little bit better, which will allow you to get stronger, will allow you to perform better. And that's all that, you know, we all want to be doing that in the game, right? You want to be progressing in any way that you can. So yeah, guys, thanks for everything. Once again, I'm really happy with the progress that we've made on the channel so far, and you guys are just doing really great. And yeah, that's all I really have for you guys today. So if you have any questions, please remember there's a Discord. You can feel free to ask in the comments also. The Discord's just an option. So yeah, guys, that's all I have for you. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed.